evening, and welcome back to Ask the Asthma Doc, brought to you by the Chicago Asthma Consortium and University of Chicago. We are so excited because today we have guests with us and we're going to have a lovely discussion about back to school and asthma. So please share this broadcast because I know that if you don't have asthma, you know someone that does, or maybe they don't know they have it yet. We'll talk about that too. But please share the broadcast. I'm sure there's lots of parents trying to figure out what to do, and or they've already done it and they want to share with others. So please share the broadcast. Sharing is caring. Share on whatever platform you're watching. And of course, you should also visit our website, chicagoasthma.org. I'm going to put it in the comments so you can do that. If you have questions, also type them in the comments and I will do my best to make sure that we get to them. Okay, so here we go. Good evening. Today we are being joined by Karmin Wright. Karmin is the Asthma Outreach and Education Coordinator for the
Southside Pediatric Asthma Center.
See, we work well
together.
So Karmin is going to help me out today with Ask the Asthma Doc. And last one we had actually was the end of the year, so it was May. So this is our first one for the new school year. So of course we have lots of kids going back to school. We have kids of all ages going back to school, young and old. And so we'll start with the young ones. My very first suggestion is that mom and dad hopefully have an asthma action plan. That is key. And in your asthma action plan, you have to have all the information. So it needs to have your, obviously emergency information, but it also needs to have what medications the child takes when, and when to call the hospital, when to call the doctor, when to call the parents. All of that information needs to be in there. And the most important thing to me is communication. You need to make sure that the teachers know, the nurse, if there's a nurse at the school, knows, the principal, the gym teacher, the coaches, everyone knows. Because the last thing you want to happen is your child gets sick and whomever is the adult in that classroom or whatever has no idea what to do. So 100%. What do you have to add to that, Karmin?
Oh, you hit it right on the nose. The asthma action plan is the most important piece of information that a child can take to school with them as an asthmatic. And I always tell people, it not only helps as far as the child having proper care, but it also protects the individual working with that child, right? It also protects them legally. So having that is always good for everybody.
Exactly. And then another really, really important thing is before, and I know some people started school last week. I know some colleges haven't started yet, and they start in a few weeks. I know University of Chicago starts October 1st. So what you want to make sure is that you have refilled and you have brand new medication of everything. So if there's any medication your child has to take at school, you need to make sure it's at the school. And then if your child just carries a rescue inhaler, you need to make certain that they have a new rescue inhaler and they have it with them in their backpack or wherever. And that's another thing to let the teacher know that they do have that so that they know where it's located in case something happens and the child can't remember, whatever. You know where it's at so you can get it to them. But it's really important that all the prescriptions are up to date and renewed so that everyone has the medications they need so that they can take them every day and they don't miss any school, because of course we know that a lot of people miss school because of asthma attacks, but you don't need to if you just take your medicine and avoid your triggers. And that's the other thing on the asthma action plan. Your triggers could be on there as well, your child's triggers. So then the teachers would know, this is why the child is doing this, because you all forgot that was his trigger or whatever.
Right. Absolutely. You're hitting it right on the nose.
Well, I'm going to have her talk about the 504 plans because I know that some people have to fill those out in order to get medications to the school or even to bring an asthma action plan and stuff like that.
Yeah. So 504 plans are equally as important. But the 504 plan just makes sure that any possible restrictions are written down. So that includes includes a 504 plan can even include how much physical activity a kid uh, could do in a certain period of time, whether that's completing their whole gym class or having to step out a little bit sooner. It also, in correlation with our asthma action plan, gives us a little bit more information as far as when to take our inhaler as well.
Mhm.
So,
That's
gym, for example, again, maybe they have to take that inhaler 15 minutes before. In that 504 plan, that's also written there too. Basically, it just is a educational barrier plan. It just removes all different barriers for children, and that can include what environments they need to be in, the best types of environments, all the way down to if things were to happen, what do we do? That 504 plan just brings it all together.
Yeah, and it's very important, like you said about gym, even recess. Maybe they need to take their inhaler before they go to recess, or maybe they need to take an allergy pill before they go to recess. You know, anything like that. And that's another thing to have in that asthma action plan and the 504 plan, so that everyone knows exactly what needs to happen when. A lot of kids, honestly, if they just took their rescue inhaler prior to gym class, probably could participate in gym class. I know, unfortunately, a lot of asthmatics don't participate in gym class, and that's not true. You should. As a matter of fact, exercise is really good for your lungs. I I was one of those people that I did participate in gym class, but I had trouble. But I always did have my inhaler with me, my rescue inhaler, and the nurse had ones too at the school. But as an adult, I decided that I was going to run a half marathon. Don't ask me what I was thinking. But I decided I was going to run a half marathon. But of course, I had to train. And when I was training, I would take my inhaler before I started my training, and I realized that when I remembered to take it beforehand, when I finished, it didn't take like 30 minutes for me to catch my breath. And then eventually, my lungs got so good that I don't have to take my inhaler, and I run every morning now. So, and my doctor even looked at my pulmonary function test and said, "What are you doing? Your lungs have vastly improved." I was like, I don't know. And I was like, "Oh, I'm training for this stupid race." And he's like, "Well, that's it. It's working." I'm like, "Oh."
Mhm.
So definitely know that your child should exercise. It really is actually good for their asthma. You just need to have a plan in place, and make sure you take care, you follow that plan. So somebody's asking, do you have to fill one out every school year? That depends upon your school. I've heard some schools say, they just use the same one from last year. And other schools, I know they've said you have to fill out a new one every single year. So that is something you need to talk to the school about. That
For
I
sure.
know. Yeah.
For sure. However, I would say it depends on the school, but also if you're going to do a physical every year, just make sure that asthma action plan is updated. As
Yep.
long as it's updated, and even if it's the same as 2 years ago, as long as it has a new date on it, you're good to go.
Yeah. And I was just going to say, the 504 plan, the school might require that, but you need your asthma action plan might have changes to it. And that's what I was going to say, is make sure it's updated, so that if something has changed, because, if your lungs improve, then your peak flow numbers, in case you don't know what one is, your peak flow numbers might change too, which would mean your green, yellow, and red zones would change. So then they would improve maybe. So that would be a change to your asthma action plan, which would mean, okay, when his peak flow is 200, then he needs to take whatever medication. Well, it might be now when his peak flow is 150, because now he's blowing so well or something. So you want to make certain that you have that up to date. And so if that's going to be changing, you might as well just do another 504 plan anyway. But I know some schools do require them every single year. So, what other suggestions do you give to parents?
To be honest, before sending any child to school, and of course it depends on the age and the ability, but we want to make sure our students are just coming into school as self-sufficient as they possibly can. So just as we know their asthma action plan and the school even may know their asthma action plan. The kids should also be aware of their asthma action plan as well, and also just encourage them to talk about how they're feeling, right? So a lot of the patients that I've worked with, just keeping them independent, we always kept an asthma journal, just something that they would use to write something as simple as, during recess, it was harder to breathe than usual. Very, very small, but at least we knew what day and where they were, um, at the time that they weren't feeling the best. So definitely just making sure they're self sufficient and independent as much as they can be.
That is so important because a lot of times, unfortunately, some people panic when things happen. But I knew as myself as an asthmatic, I never panicked.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I might not be able to breathe, and yes, I might have been just exposed to something that could potentially kill me, but I never panic. Like I'm always really calm. And the people around me, though, they have some interesting reactions, but I remain calm. And so, if your kid knows that this is what they have to deal with, then they can remain calm in the situation, and they can probably help the caregivers to calm down, and let's this is what we need to do. Can you please get me my whatever? And they'll and that'll be very helpful. So if your child has no idea, then they go into panic mode, and the caregivers in panic mode. It's just disarray. So you want everyone to remain calm, but especially the child, because that will help them, their lungs as well. Like if I know my asthma attacks would happen extreme moods. So either if I laugh too hard or I cried myself, to sleep or whatever, those extremes, I would have an asthma attack. So that's why it was good for me to remain calm, because then I could handle things. I could take the medication. And also think about it, you can't really take an inhaler if you're over there hyperventilating or you're, anxious. You need to relax and take your inhaler properly so that it actually can function. Because what happens is if you don't take it properly, then it's like, what did you take it for? There's no point. So you want to make sure you take it properly. And I'm also going to give you guys a website where you can go and download a free asthma journal. I'll just let it scroll. It's luma-edu.com. And you can download a free asthma journal there. And that asthma journal, I mean, not even just back to school, but your doctor will love you. Okay. You will be the prize patient if you fill out this asthma journal. And when you go to the doctors, you don't have to try and remember what happened. You can look in the journal and say, this is what happened when I went to play recess on October or whatever. And the
Mm.
doctor could say, oh, well, the ragweed counts are really high that day. So that's probably why you got sick or whatever. And so that will be so helpful to your doctor if you would just download this asthma journal and fill it out. I'm telling you, it will do a world of good. And you don't have to remember, you don't have to rely on your memory. It'll all be written down. You show them, and it'll make your appointment so much happier. So please, definitely, asthma journals are really, really, really important. So older kids, again, I say, please make sure you have all your prescriptions, especially if you are going away to college and you're
Yeah.
going to be away from home base. Please make sure you have your prescriptions, because it can take some time sometimes to establish, um, you know, the pharmacy there. Even though, we have a lot of chain pharmacies, sometimes it can take a minute for the transfer of medications and prescriptions and all of that. So just make sure you take them with you. And then when you get there, you establish that. The other thing is, talk to your doctor and have your doctor let you know, maybe they know a colleague that's an allergist that's in that area where the school is, in case you do need to go to somebody.
Yes.
Also, it'd be very important that you know exactly where the ER is and how you're going to get there if you need to go. Um, because the last thing you want to do is try to figure out where is the emergency room when you have an emergency. So you want to make certain that you know how to get to the ER, and you've talked to the RA and so the resident assistant and whomever's in charge of the dorm, and they know that you're living in that dorm and they know that you have asthma. The same thing with the school and the asthma action plan. So if something happens to you, your roommate knows, they can let the RA know, they can let whoever's over the whole dormitory know so that,
Mhm.
they can immediately get you help, and it won't be a problem. Because you just don't want to risk it. And I'm so sorry, but you would never believe that these stupid allergies and tried to kick my behind. And here in Chicago, I was on ABC 7 last Wednesday talking about allergies. And when I tell you, Tuesday is when they hit. And I was like, oh my God, I have to be able to talk tomorrow. So I'm glad I can talk. But unfortunately, unlike my segment last Wednesday, I didn't cough the entire time I was at the studio, but I coughed before I got there. And when I left, I can't stop coughing now. But I am just like, God help me. Um,
I'm right there with you. I'm over here holding it together. It's rough.
oh, this congestion is just, woo! Okay. So, but yeah, make sure that you do all of that. And I know my roommate was my best friend, so she knew already because she had known me for a while. She knew about my asthma, and she knew I had an oxygen tank that was with me too at school, and so she I would never rely on to give me a treatment. She didn't know how to do that, but she knew where things were. So if something happened, I can do it. Usually I'm fine enough. I could put it together and stuff. So and that was important. She also she knew how to get in touch with the RA immediately if I said, hey, something's not right. So yeah, make sure that you talk to your because you may not know your roommate and you might be rooming blind. Well, then when you meet them, you need to let them know, hey, I'm a severe asthmatic. I've not had an attack since blah, 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 but just in case. Or this is what usually has, and also let them know attacks happen at night. In case you wake up screaming their name and be like, can you please? Just things like that. And this is important. And I know kids don't want to be different and all that good stuff, but you want to do everything you can to save your own life. And so if this is what you have to do, this is what you have to do. And it's important to make sure you do know where the hospitals are, because if you need to get to the ER, you need to get there fast. And make sure your medications are, like I said, filled. You have them. You know where they are, and you can get to them. Um, what else can you think of for older kids?
For older kids, I think a suggestion specifically when it comes to like medications. Um, if you can get this done, of course, before they leave, or if they've already gone, you can still do this. But if you call your insurance company first before going to the pharmacy itself, you can get that prior authorization sent through a little faster so that when you finally do refill that prescription at the pharmacy, it's a more seamless process. And they can even give you up to like a 3 month supply for that at once. So just make sure you're calling the right people
Yeah.
and just making it a easy transition.
And I know I went to Michigan State, and at Michigan State, we had our own, because we have a med school, there is actually a clinic and center and all of that there.
Mhm.
So there's a pharmacy. You could fill prescriptions there. And because you
Absolutely.
were a student, I think it was actually cheaper than going to the drugstores and stuff,
Yes.
like the Walgreens, CVS. So in that case, you would want to figure that out though ahead of time. So, like
Mhm.
she said, call the insurance company and make certain that they know this is the school I'm going to. Do you work with that pharmacy and figure it out that way? Also, I know a lot of kids that sometimes the parents' insurance doesn't cover kids once they leave the home to go to college, which is why a place like the university's health center would be very helpful because they take care of students. So I don't know how the payment system is, but I know it's not as expensive as if you went to the ER that was in the city and didn't have insurance. So make sure you figure all that out. I personally spoke to Michigan State. I got into Michigan State October of the year before I actually went. So we literally called them and talked to them. They knew I was coming. They registered me as a handicapped student. That was so that I could have one. My dad brought me a air conditioner, which you might need because I know for me, if I get seriously hot, then I will have an asthma attack, particularly in the middle of the night. So I had a window unit that they put in, but my dad just had to buy it and bring it, and the school put it in. So that was one thing that they knew about that. They also allowed me to have a car on campus. So I had a car on campus my whole time at Michigan State. Most big campuses like that, you can't have a car as a freshman, but I did because of my asthma. The other thing was I didn't park in the commuter lot. I parked right at my dorm because I was registered as a handicapped student. So all these things, if you're a student, you're listening, these are all the benefits that there is to, yes, I was a handicapped student, but at the same time, I had all these wonderful benefits, and none of my friends treated me any differently. As a matter of fact, they loved the fact that I could drive to everything because my car was not far. My car was downstairs. And I also drove to every single class. Michigan State is the largest Big Ten. Well, actually, I don't know. They've changed Big Ten now. We were the largest Big Ten campus. And for me, especially in the winter time, it would have been very difficult for me to wait for the bus and to go to classes. And so they just made it so that I could drive to all my classes every single semester. I had to go there, and when I got my new parking permit, they had my schedule and they wrote the permit down, and they gave me parking spaces in the lots at the buildings where my classes were. And then if I had any car trouble and couldn't drive, because I was registered as a handicapped student, I was able to ride the handicap bus, which also gave door to door service. So they would pick me up at my dorm and drop me at the door of wherever my class was. So all these things you can look into and make sure that you're taken care of so that you don't have to worry and you can enjoy college life. Those were the best years of my life. I love Michigan State. And they, as a handicapped student, they really did take very good care of me. Um, and so I really, really suggest that you make sure you call and contact and figure out who do I need to talk to and what do I need to do, so that you can make sure that you have a great college experience and you don't want to end up in a dorm that, and I don't know if this is true, but I know back in the day, some of the dorms you could actually smoke in certain areas, I think. I don't think that's probably the case anymore, but back in the day, it was a long time ago. I just look young. So you wouldn't want to end up in a dorm like that. Also, if you move off campus, you wouldn't want to end up in a apartment building that allowed smoking in the building. Like I said, probably not the case many places these days, but you want to make sure. Um, because you don't want to be around anything that is going to cause you, to have an asthma attack. So the other thing was I had an oxygen tank in my room, and my suite mates were smoking.
Mm.
And so we shared a bathroom, so it was coming under the door. Yeah,
Okay.
oh, I could smell it. And so I kept trying to tell them, you don't seem to understand. There's an oxygen tank in here. We could all blow up. Like, please stop. It was crazy.
Yeah.
It was
God.
crazy. Yeah. So you have to, like I said, conversations have to be had. It wasn't just my roommate. Hello, I shared a bathroom, which meant, like I said, the stuff was coming under the door. I had talked to my suite mates,
Yeah.
and my RA actually ended up like mediating that conversation because I think they thought we were joking or something. And I'm like, no, for real. Like, this is a serious situation here.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, so you need to make sure you have those conversations. It is so, so important. Oh, this is important too. In the comments, the teachers will also need to be trained so they won't panic when a student has an asthma attack. That would be very helpful too. I know that not all schools are amenable to somebody coming in to do that,
Yeah.
but it would be highly suggested because you would not want, you would want the teachers to know what's going on, not just your own student's teacher, but all the teachers to know what's going on so that just in case they would know what to do.
For sure. That's why it's important, shameless plug, of course. Because that's what my job is to train faculty, staffs, and outside organizations on how to handle children with asthma in their spaces. Um, and we have a website,
You?
www.southsidekidsasthma.org. Um, and you can request those things. There's a form on there where you can literally request. Now, when it comes to colleges and universities, of course, do the same thing and request. Um, However, it is more likely, just being realistic, it is more likely that you will find more trained individuals in a pediatric space. So
Right.
anybody through K through 8th, even high school. But that's why that self-sufficiency and independence is so important, because once you do get to the college or university space, a lot of that they will deem on you as an adult, right?
Mhm.
Once you get to a certain age. So training is definitely different. Just because certain things they can get away with just due to the age. They think that once you become 18, you are responsible for your health.
This is true. This is true. So you need to but yeah, so the kids, more than likely it's in the pediatric space that you would be able to train the teachers and stuff. But as an adult, you need to make sure you don't leave home without your rescue inhaler.
Mhm.
And if you need to set up transportation to get to class because you can't stand at the bus stop, then you need to set that up. You know, all these things you have to think about, you need to take care of. And
Yeah,
mom and dad are not there to make sure your prescriptions are, filled on time and all of that. So you need to make sure, if you have to set reminders in your cell phone or whatever you have to do, or if you have to set it on auto refill so that the prescriptions just are mailed to you when it's time, do what you have to do so that you don't catch yourself in a bad situation, because the last thing you want to do is get sick because you forgot to fill your prescription.
absolutely. I always recommend that people, because all inhalers for the most part have like that metered dose.
Mm-hmm.
So they have the numbers on there. I typically recommend when people have anywhere between 50 and 75 pumps left, we should be looking to get a refill just so we don't run out at all. So just a tip.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so important to make certain that you pay attention to those numbers on the inhaler, because it does let you know. Um, and my whole thing, if it's possible, because I know insurance is insane these days, but when I was younger, I had an inhaler everywhere. There was one in my pocket, but then there was one next to my bed, and there was one in the car, and there was one, they were everywhere. So if
Mhm.
that's possible, that's the other thing. Like right now, there's usually one in my pocket. I don't know what I did with it. I set it somewhere, but there's one next to my bed. I have multiple inhalers.
Mhm.
And so one is in my backpack. And same thing, if you're somebody with severe allergies, you need to make sure that you have your auto injector, your epinephrine auto injector, whatever it is. And if you probably need multiples, and you definitely need to make sure that everyone knows what your triggers are
Yes.
so that they know, and train them, let them know how to stab you in the thigh. You need to be laying down. Did anyone know that? I learned that one about 5 years ago. But you should be laying down, and you stab yourself in the thigh, or they stab you in the thigh, but you need to make certain that everyone knows the proper protocol and what to do. And the stories that I hear with college kids are more about asthma, I mean allergy and
Mm.
anaphylaxis, than I do about asthma attacks. So yeah, unfortunately, there's been a couple college kids that died in the last year, and it's been totally anaphylaxis.
Yeah.
So please make sure everyone knows. So if they do offer you something, then at least they know, and or you have the good sense to ask. Because I know one kid, it was like he was allergic to peanut butter, and the cookies had peanut butter in them or something. And I don't know if he didn't ask or what happened, but yeah. So that's very important. I'm trying to think, is there? Oh, and then also, please get your vaccines. So honestly, you probably should do it before you leave home, just so you don't have to worry about it. Otherwise, you can go to the drugstores, CVS, Walgreens, whatever drugstores. Most of them have them, but now is the time to be getting your flu vac. If you're an asthmatic, you know that you should be getting a flu vac, and
Yes.
I highly suggest you get the newest COVID vac. Um, and then, so this is the time. September, October is your flu time, and the new COVID vac just came out. So just go on and get them both at the same time. It's fine. You get one in each arm.
Yep. And call it a day.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Better safe than sorry.
Right.
All the time.
Right. And I mean, if you don't know, the reason you need to get the COVID vac is because COVID will attack your lungs. And if you already have issues with your lungs, you don't want COVID to attack them. So
No.
please make sure that you are covered, and you can and like I said, you can actually go on the apps for the drugstores and make your appointment. It's really easy peasy, in and out,
Mhm.
and get your vaccine. So that's really important as well, is make sure that you're vaccinated. The little kids, make sure that you're going to the pediatrician and getting the whole, because there's a whole lot of vaccines they have to worry about compared to the older ones. But make sure that you know your kids are up to date on their vaccines. Um, you just don't want you don't want anything to interfere with them having to get sick, because I know me, anytime any sick I got ended up being an asthma attack. So I just
Yes.
tried to avoid all sick.
And you'll be surprised how much you can avoid just by washing your hands properly.
Girl,
Just wash your hands. Like,
say the ABC. So sing the song ABCDEFG, and keep washing. And don't forget this part too. Some people just wash like this. No, no, no. You got to get the backs of the
yep.
hands.
Scrub
So
under those nails.
yep. And
All of
look, I have brushes in all my bathrooms.
it. That's
Since my
smart
nails
though.
are long, I'm like, yeah. So I just brush under my nails that way. But definitely make sure you sing the ABCs, because that will be the length of time that you need. There's another song, and I can't think of what it is right now. Somebody said, and I can't remember. It's a more current song, and I can't think what it is. But sing the ABCs. Everyone should know that song. And wash your hands and keep rubbing, like I said, front and back, both sides, under your nails, and dry your hands. And it's fine to shake people's hands and stuff, but just make sure you wash your hands after you go to the bathroom, before you eat, things like that. Because I'm telling you, because we wore masks and we couldn't touch people, a lot of people didn't get sick. And that
Yes.
shows you why. It's because we weren't exposing ourselves to these germs. So, flu numbers were down because we were wearing masks. And so you need to just, let's keep that. If nothing else came out of COVID, we should all know how to properly wash our hands. And the children, I know, I remember in kindergarten, they would had a little song with it too. And we go wash our hands together before we went to lunch and stuff. Please just incorporate that at home, and encourage your children to make sure they wash their hands, before they leave the bathroom. Make sure they wash their hands and all that stuff.
Absolutely.
Is there anything else you can think of?
No, I don't think there's anything else. I think it's pretty straightforward, like, especially when you're dealing with asthmatic children, um, there's already a certain amount of care that you're already taking.
Right.
So continue the care and just make sure that you're spreading the knowledge. That's really it. Especially when you're talking about grade school children. I do want to, before we leave or wherever, I do want to put it out there that I do a lot of trainings at schools where faculties and staffs house medications in an office, in the nurse's office or in the nurse's space. Of course, I always tell parents to follow what the school says or whatever. However, there is a law where all children can self-carry and administer their own medications. Like, if you
Now,
need
is
them,
this an Illinois law?
this is an Illinois law.
Okay.
Like, Illinois law for sure. Where kids can self-carry and administer their own inhalers and whatever else, even if that requires those items to be within reach. This law was created because there was a child who had an asthma attack at a certain time. However, his medication was in the nurse's office, and the nurse was out sick that day.
So her door was locked.
The door was absolutely locked, and that child did pass away due to that circumstance. So, yes, the schools have different rules and regulations. However, in Illinois, there was a law created to kind of combat that. So, if you just need a little extra something to bag up your claims, that is that.
Yeah. So definitely. And the other thing is, and I know moms are like, oh, my 5-year-old. But if you have, been living with asthma for a while, then you've taught your 5-year-old, then they know that they should carry, they know if they carry in their inhaler, when they should use it, and they should know when they should use it, how to use it, and all of that. I know at 5 I did. And it wasn't, I never thought of it as a toy, and I never showed it to my friends as a toy. I might have showed them, but it wasn't a toy. I didn't say that. I said, this is my medicine. And they understood this is my medicine. So the kids do not need to be a certain age, do they, to carry?
No,
Nope. See,
they
and
don't
that's
need
what
to be a
as
certain
long
age.
as they're in school.
Absolutely. They
Carry their
don't
own
need to be a certain age. Of course, there's like certain stipulations if the child has disabilities or something like that. But as far as just, it can be any child, as long as they're self sufficient and know what they're doing.
Yeah, and so that is really important. Especially it's a rescue inhaler, and that's what it's called, rescue inhaler. So that's the one I'm talking about. Now, if they have to take some corticosteroid inhaler at lunchtime or whatever, that maybe that can be in the nurse's office. That's fine. Or for me, I had to take some pills during the day. That can be in the nurse's office. But the rescue inhaler is something that the kid should probably have on their person
Yes, at all times.
at all times so that they can always use it to rescue. Because think about it. How far is the nurse's office from wherever the classroom is? Can the kid even walk there
Exactly.
if they're not feeling well? So definitely, please, please, please. If that's a law in Illinois, I hope that other schools will adopt, other states will adopt such law. But please investigate with your state and see what's the rules and regulations for that. Because, and honestly, it's sometimes it's better to ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission.
Yes.
So put the inhaler in his pocket or her pocket and keep it moving.
There we go.
In the backpack, just keep it moving. I'm just saying. So, and that, like I said, and this is why it's good for you to teach your children young, like, okay, this is what, this is the condition and this is how we have to treat it. And so if they know, then they'll be rock stars and they'll
Absolutely.
be able to take care of themselves. And they'll know when they don't feel well and they'll be able to just pull it out and take it. So, well,
Absolutely.
thank you so much to for our questions. I appreciate them. And thank you to everyone that is going to watch the replay because I know that a lot of people will get great information from this from all ages, from elementary all the way through high school. And also to any kids that watch, please, please, please don't be afraid to tell your friends, okay, this is what I have and this is what I deal with. Because if you're out there on the soccer field or you're out there at basketball practice, the last thing you want to do is to have an asthma attack and nobody knows what's going on with you.
Mm,
Because when they do call whatever the ambulance or something, somebody should be able to tell them he has asthma or she has asthma.
yes.
So please, 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 kids, share, 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 communicate with your friends and let them know. Let them know maybe what it looks like, what to do, or whatever, just so that they can help you if you need help one day. But you
Perfect.
can visit Southside kidsasthma.org, and you can
Yes.
have somebody like Carmen or Carmen herself come and train your staff at your school or at your kids' school. You can go to luma-edu.com and you can download the asthma journal. And then, of course, you can visit, hold on one second here. Where did my thing go? Okay, I lost it. Hold on, I'm going to type it in. And then, of course, thank you to the Chicago Asthma Consortium. And you can visit us there and find lots of resources that can be helpful to you. SSPAC, I think they have their website is probably linked there as well, or will be soon. But thank you so much. And we will see you next month. And I forgot what next month's topic is, but we'll see you again next month. Bye.
Thank you.